Yeah, so seed phrases are something, that we gave to the world, but we're also trying to look into how to innovate on that. And it's really something we are discussing. The problem with all those, zero knowledge proofs or some kind of AI, whatever, that all those things, they usually do have some drawbacks.
Hey, folks, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and joining me today is Tomas Susanka, who is the CTO at Trezor. Tomas, great to have you on.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Tomas, I'm excited to speak with you. I'm a user of the Trezor device. Crypto self-custody is something I believe in and I've always recommended to folks. And I think it's important for folks to understand all the moving parts and components of self-custody. And I want to learn about all the great things that Trezor is doing. But let's kick it off with your background. Tell us about where you're from and what's your professional background.
Sure. So I'm from Prague, born and raised. I'm here in the middle of Europe, and basically, I've always have been fascinated, by technology or playing around with computers from the young age, as all of us, I believe, were, and it really always brought me that way. And then I basically started also investigating security and things related to that. I went to university in here, also did some semesters in Germany and all over the place. And basically at the university, I found the field of cryptography and computer security, which was really fascinating field to me, and it is still today. And that's basically how I, also found Bitcoin. And I was really fascinated, by all, just by the fact that you're able to do, that you're able to create money with with just some code and some cryptography. That is still fascinating till today. Anyway, and after the university, I knew that I want to do something in this field. I knew I want to do cryptography or something related to computer security. I've joined Cloudflare for some time, the CDN and network provider back in whatever year it was, 2017, I'd say, or 2016, something like that.
Mm.
And after that, it was in London, and I knew I want to come back. So I was looking for something around here. And, basically Trezor was really the, love on first sight because it was a smaller company at that time. It was, doing computer security. It was related to Bitcoin. And basically 8 years ago, I started my journey here.
Wow, that's a long time. So you're a crypto OG. I mean, 8 years in the crypto industry. It's a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel 8 years in crypto is like 50 years in the normal world, right? Yeah, it's
Exactly.
true.
It's like interstellar, right? You're on certain planets and it seems like it's a short time, but it's long in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like back in the time, so we were around 20 people when I joined. We're now like around 200. So, the company changed a lot, but obviously also the industry changed a lot. Like that, to have something like Bitcoin to be a topic of US elections, right? And all those things that happen. And then now there are laws passing in both US and also some in Europe. Like it really changed a lot, and it's kind of surreal sometimes to look at the field 8 years ago and now, because sometimes it's very different in many aspects, but at the same time the mission, I think, stays the same. So yeah, it's interesting to look back.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think your correct word you use there is surreal. I've been here since 2016 and I still am like, wow, TradFi, banks, the politicians, everybody's behind crypto now. It's just amazing how things have changed.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's also interesting with respect to the price, right? I mean, I'm just looking at, you have it in the background. So 118 was something we definitely, I mean, it was something we dreamed of, but it was not something we expected or we hoped for. But yeah, you never know. But it's not just that. Yeah, it's also all the other things: politics, laws, stable coins. Like, well, probably get to some of that later on, but it's interesting how, it evolved. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just confirming the fact that 8 years in crypto is 100 years in the normal world.
For sure. So, for those who don't know about Trezor, give us an overview of the company and all the services you provide.
Sure. So Trezor is so we are the manufacturer of a hardware wallet. So we've kind of started the industry of hardware wallets because we are the first and the OG of the, first ever Bitcoin or crypto hardware wallet. We launched Model 1, it's more than 10 years ago. It's 11 or 12, I'm losing track, but it's also, some time ago. And basically, Trezor is a device that stores your cryptocurrencies. And the main difference is the self-custody part, which means that in traditional wallets or exchanges, the company is holding the private keys themselves, right? I mean, they are holding the crypto for you,
Hmm.
while we are selling or selling and manufacturing a device that then you then use, and you have the keys on the device itself, right? So it's like that's the biggest fundamental shift, that you actually own the keys. You are the owner of the keys that then control the coins, which doesn't apply for exchanges or whatever, right? So this gives better security, but it's also you are not you're not required, how to say, you're not under any limit, restrictions or obligations or anything, right? Like you own the keys, and what you do with it is totally up to you. So that's us, that's Trezor, that's the device. And from over the years, we've basically built a lot of services on top of that. So we have Trezor Suite, which is our like main software product that you have on your computer, and of course you can buy, sell, swap. You can do all those things that are quite common, or even stake with some of the coins. And we're trying to extend these services as well, but at the same time the core product is the hardware wallet itself.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a beautiful device. I use the Trezor Safe 5. I love the setup that you guys have, the Trezor Suite. And I love the hand holding service that you provide as well. Because I think a lot of people, this is very new to them, and having someone, a representative from the company, speak to them and be able to hold their hand through the process is really great.
Yeah, that's a great point. We call it Trezor Expert, which is basically a service that allows you to. It's basically onboarding service that someone calls has a call with you, and explains to you all those difficult terms, and tries to onboard you into Trezor. By the way, we just recently launched also like a consultation service. So you can also, of course, we provide support and all customer service and all that. But now we've also extended Trezor Expert into like a consultation session. So, for example, if you are already experienced user, but you have something more complex that you need to discuss, or you're dealing with some problem, you can also use that. So we're trying to be there for our customers as much as possible.
Yeah, that's really great. So obviously you have a retail product. Are you also working with institutions?
Actually, no. So from the start, we have been like a B2C product. So we've been always focused on the retail.
Mm.
And basically our mission is really to, empower the independence of the individuals. So, it's been on the table many times, like to go and, have some B2B offering, or some, institution offering, but it's not core of our mission, basically. I mean, never say never, right? So maybe at some point eventually, but I don't really see it, because we've always been focused on the individuals, and I think it's going to stay that way.
Oh yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I think, look, the on the institutional side, there are a lot of options, but I think the retail, they really need the hand holding, because if we're gonna bring a billion people on chain, right? A lot of services need to be of quality standard, right? The customer service, the hand holding, because this is still very new to a lot of folks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Um, Now, with regards to competitors, there's going to be folks going to ask, okay, why is Trezor, let's say, better than Ledger or the other hardware companies out there? What do you think differentiates Trezor from others?
Yeah, so it's a very complex question, obviously, but we've always tried to be true to the principles that we started with, which goes to be really stubbornly open source. So everything we do, we really do in an open source way, which also means that we are not using any. We do not run any closed source on the secure element, for example, and things like that, which for example Ledger is doing. And we are trying to also push the usability as much as we can. So we're really trying to be user friendly. I would say that's probably the biggest, changes that differentiate us to Ledger. Because, for example, Ledger has a way smaller screens on the old devices. On the new one, they have the e-ink, which, well, everybody has a different taste, so I don't really want to judge it. But we are trying to push the usability there as well, right? So I would say it's these two probably.
Yeah, one thing I can say, from my experience, like you mentioned, the ledger screen is very small, but the Trezor Safe 5 have a larger screen. It's much more easier to handle. So the usability, I think it's really great. So just my opinion. Some folks may disagree, but I agree with that. Now we know there's a lot of bad actors out there. They're in every market, right? They're always trying to steal people's cash, their funds, their crypto. So a question a lot of folks are going to have is how is Trezor staying ahead of the curve to mitigate against these hackers who are trying different things, maybe using AI and much more?
Yeah, I mean, so honestly, this is like a never-ending journey, right? I mean, if someone tells you that there's one thing that's going to solve everything, they're probably lying, right? So it's a
Right.
never-ending journey that we are on and that we are like fighting for. Um, so we've always trying to adapt to the threats that were out there. So we've introduced the secure element in the Safe series, so Safe 3, Safe 5. They have a dedicated secure element that is protecting the core of the recovery seed. The core of the backup that Trezor gives you. Um, we're also working on a like a auditable and transparent secure element ourselves. So it's our sister company, Tropic Square, that is working for a few years already on something that would be more transparent, because we were not happy enough with the current state of things, and we wanted to push the boundaries even further. Um, like, to be honest, hardware is hard, and chip manufacturing or chip design is even harder. It's really very difficult. So it's been some journey that we've been on for quite some time, but yeah, I hope uh, soon it will happen. So we're also trying to push the transparency aspect a little bit more.
Mm.
And we're also using different chip in the Safe 5, which has some security guarantees, and there's many more protections that we can get into. Also, what kind of breaks my heart sometimes is that we're doing all those sophisticated protections and all that, but then at the end of the day, I think the biggest threat, unfortunately, is the phishing. That's something that we see very often, that unfortunately, the users, not just of Trezors, like users in general, they have the recovery seed, they have the set of words that serve as the backup, and they unfortunately enter it into websites, into a phishing website that they obviously shouldn't have, and
Mm.
then their crypto is gone. So sometimes I feel we are focused quite heavily on the physical protections and all that, but yeah, we're also trying. We also need to look um into the how to put it, into the user side of things as well, right? To really see how we can help the users not to fall for these, because it's going to be here forever, right? So we're trying to doing like the hardcore stuff, but at the same time also looking at the soft stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and I saw you guys put out some warnings and things like that on social media that there are, people trying to impersonate Trezor with phishing emails, and that's not a issue exclusive to crypto. That happens in the regular business world. I remember when I was working at a company, I had to go through these compliance trainings, and phishing was one of them, right? And it had nothing to do with crypto finance. It's a common problem that exists, and I think it's just more education, what to look out for when it
Exactly.
comes to emails and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that was also one of the reasons why we started the Trezor Expert, to really educate the people as much as we can. We're also like introducing new knowledge base, on our website. So we're trying to, to push the content as well. I'm also talking about fishing. I feel like it's the only thing I'm doing nowadays is like trying to educate about fishing because I really do see it as a threat. I think sometimes people have, like the feeling to say, well, the users just shouldn't have done it, right? Like, are they stupid or what? But I always feel this, like, no one was born with any knowledge right away, right? It's something you gain along the way, and it's our mission to do it as simple as possible. So yeah, it's something, yeah, we're trying to look into as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think as an industry, hopefully we all can collectively come together and continue to educate and put it in front of people's faces. I think that's the key. Like remember, watch out for emails. Don't click on certain links. Verify. Don't just trust. All these things. And I think if we collectively do it, maybe there's some sort of group that's formed with all these crypto companies. They have representatives that are just out there educating people on social media and much more.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I totally agree that it's something, it's a journey, and it's yeah, we really need to educate the people as much as possible to, yeah, so they understand, because like these concepts are different, right? It's different than opening a bank account or whatever, right? So yeah, we need to make it really simple.
Absolutely. Now, on the hardware side, you have the merchandise, the hardware wallets that are shipped globally. How do you protect your inventory to, let's say, someone getting some of that inventory along the supply chain, right? Doing stuff to those hardware wallets and packaging back and sending it to stores. How do you protect against that?
Yeah, so the biggest protection is basically the authenticity check, which is a feature that we have in the Safe series. And basically, the secure element that is there is loaded with a certificate that comes from our manufacturing side, from our place where we manufacture these, and we basically load it there, and we verify that it's authentic, and we basically prove the authenticity. So then when you receive it, even if someone would somehow meddle around with it, we would basically know. So when you launch Trezor Suite, you like a special that there is a special section during onboarding which will say, hey, yeah, now verifying your Trezor, and it gets verified, and then you can see that it's been intact. So this is in place, and yeah, it works well, and it's something that we're trying to look for as well, because obviously, yeah, it's one of those threats.
Yeah, and it's like an ongoing thing for not only the crypto industry but other industries as well. So it definitely makes sense. I'm curious about what your vision is for self-custody moving forward and what hardware wallets, how they may evolve. Like, for example, would we eventually not necessarily have the seed phrase, but it's more biometrics, my fingerprint, my retina scan, and maybe certain questions that I can answer that I know the answer to, things like that.
Yeah, so let me maybe answer in two ways. So
Mhm.
first of all, yes, we are also trying to look into the biometrics and all that. I think it's something that's on the table. There's also, there are some problems with that with respect to the open sourceness, because, for example, the fingerprint readers and all that, it's usually, third party properties. It's something, to have a look into there. And also, while fingerprints or the face ID or whatever, it's great. There's also this problem that there is not this plausible deniability aspect, because, for example, if you have PIN, you can kind of pretend, or you can claim that you forgot it, right? Because no one can really, well, they can beat you and get it probably, but if you know what I mean, right? It's not something like, to change fingerprint is basically not possible unless you're really crazy.
Yeah.
So it's something that we're also trying to look at these aspects, because pin is really something that you remember, and you can change, and you can forget, and no one can really, you have to give it up, right? But the face ID and fingerprints. It's something, that you cannot really change. So, there are many aspects to that. But I also wanted to say about the future of self-custody. It's also, now when I kind of zoom out, it's also interesting how the market is evolving.
Mm.
And like 8 years ago or whenever, I really believed that, self-custody is like, or my goal or my dream was that self-custody will be for everyone. Like now with all the ETFs, and all this institutionalization, I kind of I don't really believe it anymore, and I think that's fine. I don't think self custody needs to be for everyone. It's okay if it's for
Sure.
10% or 50% or whatever the percentage is. What I'm kind of really would like to accomplish is that the people know about the risks, right?
Yeah.
Because if they buy ETF, they usually, it's Bitcoin, and they don't really know that they don't own it, and they don't. If they not just that they don't own it per se, they also don't own Bitcoin. They own the ETF, right? That tells them that they own Bitcoin. So this is something that I would like to, push further, that if there is someone who makes an educated decision that they don't want to have self-custody and that they want to have, ETFs in their bank, I'm kind of fine with that. I just really want them to understand, what are, the risks of it. So um, I still think to some extent self-custody is not going to be super mainstream, but it's still our mission to be at least a little bit mainstream, to be really like an option in the mainstream that you can do if you decide to do so.
Yeah, it's a great point because I think about, for example, my parents who are much older, I don't think they're going to be able to self-custody, but they are comfortable in their bank or with an ETF in their retirement account. But, the more sophisticated users and maybe the younger folks, right? I'm not an ageist. There are people who are older who understand technology. But let's say the younger folks who are more used to the digital world, they may want to self-custody and they can participate in DeFi and control their funds and move it whenever they want and, have that freedom, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I totally agree with that. Like, many of my friends are, actually saying, hey, you can hold it for your parents and you can, educate everyone. And of course, that's true. And that's what we're like trying to do as well. But at the same time, I'm always like trying to comparing to, like, if you want to buy ETF with like a gold ETF, or I don't know whether it's silver or oil or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, I don't really want to have gold bricks in my garage, right? I mean, it's
Right.
it's not something that it's not my main mission or whatever, right? So to me, it's fine if if the people know the risks, but like when they actually have enough of portion of their wealth in Bitcoin, then I really think they should consider self custody, because then it's not like 1% of whatever, but it's something more, and they should really educate them. So yeah, I simply agree with you.
Hmm. With seed phrases, right? I know that gives a lot of people some anxiety, and I often tell them like, back up your seed phrases, have multiple copies in places that are safe, maybe in a safety deposit box or in a safe in your house or whatever it may be, where it can be protected. Do you think in the future we won't need to necessarily back up physical copies of the seed phrase recovery, but maybe with ZK, zero knowledge, or maybe with an AI agent attached to your wallet. Those things are you won't have to think about it. It's covered in that way.
Yeah, so seed phrases are something that we gave to the world, but we are also trying to look into how to innovate on that, and it's really something we are discussing. The problem with all those, zero knowledge proofs or some kind of AI, whatever, that all those things, they usually do have some drawbacks, right? So, for example, Ledger, they introduced the Ledger Recover, which is like a KYC product for that, which is something we don't want to do because we don't want to do KYC on that. And what I'm trying to say, that we always feel that if we cannot really solve one part and then replace it with just another problem, right? Which I think the KYC part is. So It's something that we are looking into. It's something that we would like to innovate. Like, I do agree that it's something, to tackle, but at the same time, I do feel we are not there yet. But I would like to introduce something in that regard pretty soon, because I do acknowledge it's an issue. Yeah,
Yeah, and all things considered, it is still, I think, the safest and possibly the best option right now. But I guess as the technology, there's future iterations around it. That there could be maybe a more simpler way, if you want to put it that way. And I don't know that might be, but as you said though, you don't want to compromise security or usability just to put up, kind of a patch. Because I know a lot of people are not
exactly.
happy about Ledger's recovery situation.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like, at the same time, like I kind of understand why they did what they did. And I mean, I'm kind of glad that they are trying to innovate the field themselves. It's just that we want to go a different way, right? And what the way will be, we're gonna find out. I hope pretty soon, but yeah, it takes some time, to come up with some innovation. So yeah, on one side, I'm glad at trying to push it further. We just want to push it a different direction, basically.
Mm. Something I wanted to get your take on, with your expertise, and this is a problem that exists across all industries, and that is data breaches, right? People's name, email, telephone number, date of birth, and so forth getting leaked. We've seen it from some of the largest companies. Do you think that at some point we're going to be able to put our data on the blockchain, whether you're a small company or a large company or enterprise, and that will help prevent those data breaches?
Yeah, and I honestly think it doesn't make much sense. I mean, to some degree, maybe I can imagine a world where you have the data encrypted on the blockchain, and with Trezor, you can exactly decrypt it, and then you can provide the information to more subjects. But the problem here is then, of course, the companies then, or the institutions, need to adopt it, right? And I think that's also the biggest hurdle that there is, that all those data leaks, right, they were from like big government agencies or whatever, or from big companies, right? um, and I don't really see them, having the ambition to push this. So I'm kind of worried that's the problem.
Mm,
And at the same time, the space on the blockchain is limited. So that's another thing that, yeah, it doesn't really. It was never meant to be that. So
mm.
yeah, I'm kind of pessimistic on that, I'm afraid.
Interesting. So it seems like a problem we're gonna have to continue to deal with until we figure out some.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, also, like, we also support like the passkeys function, or the FIDO2 things. So those are standards that allow you to connect without a password to a website. So,
Yeah.
for example, Facebook, Google, I think Apple as well, like some of the bigger players, they actually support it. So you can connect like using Trezor into websites.
Mm,
But I think the problem here is that, like, the demand is just not big enough there. Like people are not really willing to pay for devices to just secure their passwords or whatever,
mm,
because it's not that important to them, right? And I think until this changes, until the demand is really large enough, I'm afraid this is going to be a problem also further on. So
mm,
yeah, I kind of like, this is also what is bothering me sometimes. I would like people to be aware more about that this is a threat, but yeah, I think yeah, it will take some time on maybe some big issues or whatever, until people realize this. So yeah.
yeah, for sure. What's on Trezor's roadmap? What can we expect in the next 6 months or so?
Sure. So definitely the biggest one is our new Trezor. It's something we've been working for a quite long time. We believe we're going to launch it this fall. And yeah, it's something we're really excited about. It's, something that's been in the making for a very long time. And it's going to be uh, Yeah, I really believe it's going to be the best hardware wallet out there. Of course,
Mm.
I am a little bit biased to say that. So we'll see once people hold it in their hands. But yeah, it's something we've been working for quite some time. And I'm really excited about that. So that's definitely the biggest one. And honestly, I think that after that, it should be the backup thing that we've discussed just recently. I think that should be the next one that we look into. But of course, we don't want to stop to innovate on any sides, right? So we will also, will be working most likely on another Trezor. We also want to make our offerings in suite like bigger, and to because as mentioned, we also have the trading section, so we're always trying to improve that, and we're working on the usability a lot. So that's something we're trying to accomplish all that and somehow put it together.
There's a question that just came to mind because I noticed that Trezor lists support for BlackRock's BUIDL tokenized money market fund. So Trezor has the ability to support these tokenized assets and the various stable coins, right? As we see, the tokenization market is going to expand significantly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like my view on this whole tokenization is kind of love and hate, or my feelings are kind of torn on that,
Mm.
because and also like we always have been quite on the Bitcoin maxi side of things. I think it's changed a little bit like later on, because we many of us do acknowledge value in other fields as well. And the tokenization is really interesting because, like, I know Robinhood also just recently launched their tokenization attempt, and like I'm always asking myself, okay, what is the point of having a Tesla stock on Trezor as a self custody if I'm still dependent on Robinhood or whatever, claiming that they hold the stocks themselves, right? Like I still need to believe them that they actually are doing what they're saying they're doing, right? So it's not 100% complete self custody.
Hmm.
On the other hand, I do acknowledge that like we live in a privileged world where I can just take my phone and I can buy Tesla stocks in a I don't know in a few seconds, right? It can be Robinhood, but it can be many other apps that are out there. And obviously, this is not the privilege that have people in third countries or Africa or I don't know where, right? Like it's not that easy to them. And I think that can be interesting for them, because for them it can be a very interesting option to get to those stocks, and to get to be part of this Wall Street, or how to put it, because those were always in the history, and I really do see the shift in history. Those, whether it's ETFs or stocks or whatever, like these have been always available only to the people in suites, and only the people that were really able to have a banker on the Wall Street or whatever. And now it changed, and it's also like normal folks with just a mobile phone. And I think if the tokenization would be able to even expand that more to really the third countries, it could really do a lot of good to those parts. So yeah, I mean, mixed feelings. I see the
Sure.
risks because you're still dependent on those companies actually doing what they're saying they're doing, which I'm always have a problem with that. But at the same time, yeah, if done right, it can allow some people to join the ecosystem. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well put. And then maybe crypto legislation will help put the guardrails in place, and that these companies have to give their attestations that they do in fact hold the respective assets, right? So I know right now here in the United States, stablecoin legislation just passed last week, got signed into law, but the market structure bill, which would address security, not security, tokenization, DeFi, that's going to be passed hopefully, late September, early October.
Yeah, and it's like now we're getting even like to the philosophical part of how much do you trust the government, and all that. And we had like an interesting discussion with respect to stablecoins, right? And I like again, it has. its pros and cons. Like obviously, stable coins are still subject to inflation, and it's a US dollar, so of course, it has those properties of a US dollar. So it's not a Bitcoin, obviously, which doesn't have these negative consequences. But on the other hand, again, like after all, US dollar is the biggest currency of the world, and it can, with having stable coins on the internet, it can reach people that normally wouldn't be able to receive a normal dollars, right? So I do see some good in that. I guess I'm glad that it's regulated in some way because, of course, it could cheat a lot of people. It really depends how the regulation is done. I think I haven't read, of course, the laws itself, but I see some more sense in that. Like here in the European Union, we have regulation mainly dictating what you need to do when you're in exchange, and it's very bureaucratic and it's very heavy. So on one side, I'm glad that there is some regulation because there's a lot of scams, obviously, and a lot of wrongdoings were done in the crypto market. But at the same time, I see that it's so heavy that it kind of it makes me sad because it kills some one-man companies, right? Because they basically not able, to fulfill this demand. So I again feel like the truth is somewhere in the middle, and it needs to be balanced well.
Yeah, well put. Well put. How are you feeling about, you've been in this market 8 years. We've seen incredible growth. And with legislation and some of the regulations coming to place, even though it may not be perfect, do you see an explosion of growth, more innovation, more crypto businesses, Web3, and so forth?
It's a question that I'm asking myself every second day, and I honestly don't know. I, I have been like a strong, or strong. I have been a believer of the 4 years cycle, right? Like the bull and bear, and that it changes each 4 years. Now I do see with the institutionalization of the ETFs that I feel like it's getting more flat. That the curve is not going to be that crazy, and I feel like it's going to be more steady grow. And I also do feel that we could see some innovation in that regard. I also still think that Bitcoin is the main player out there. I still do think that that's what makes sense the most for the majority of people as a savings account.
Hmm.
Whether we're gonna see something interesting, I honestly don't know. I'm really interested whether some big players gonna make it with the tokenization, because I do think, as we've discussed, it could bring some good as well. But at the same time, it's a really big thing to tackle, and it's been here on the table for a few years already. And I'm kind of wondering whether it's gonna happen or not. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Um, it's just amazing how things have changed, and I'm curious what, by 2030, what this market looks like, and how this technology is adopted in our daily lives. Maybe we're using more stable coins, or stable coins are powering the rails for the existing payment providers, banks, payment services like Western Union and things like that, PayPal. And then more people are holding Bitcoin and other crypto assets in their retirement and their savings and things like that.
That's yeah. I actually think it's going that way. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's true that all those like bank transfers or even credit card payments. It's so old. Like the tech is getting obsolete that I really think this needs some disruption. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Awesome. Tomas, pleasure chatting with you. I love what Trezor is doing. Like I said, I'm a user of the devices, but I got some wrap-up questions here for you. They're rapid fire. Favorite food,
Uh, Vietnamese.
favorite musician or band.
Musician or band? Oh boy, I don't really. I'm like listening to such a like big mix of everything from hip hop to jazz to yeah. I don't really have one. Sorry.
No worries. I'm the same way. I'm eclectic, and I listen to a variety of stuff. Favorite movie.
Favorite movie? I just saw the F1 movie. I'm kind of into cars, so I like that. Whether it's a favorite one, probably not, but it's the first one I remember.
Oh yeah. Did you ever see Ford versus Ferrari by any chance?
Yeah, yeah, I saw it as well, and I even liked more the Rivals. I think it
Mm.
was called about Niki Lauda and that. That's probably it could be maybe even the number one
Oh, nice. Favorite book?
favorite book. I'm not much of a reader, to be honest. I've always tried to be, but I'm really failing at that, so I don't have fun. Sorry.
When you're not working at Trezor, what are you doing for fun?
Um, I'm actually, I'm actually lately somehow devoting my time to racing and cars. I've started to do a little bit of go-karting, and just last weekend I drove for the first time the 911 GT3.
Oh wow.
So that was really. It's unfortunately it's not mine. It's we're not there. But maybe once Bitcoin is $10 million, maybe we'll drive together.
Yeah, I love cars too.
Yeah.
And I love Porsches. I mean, they're beautiful cars. But Tomas, great stuff. And I would love to have you back on in the future as new products are launched by Trezor, and we'll talk about it. But thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Thanks.